Okay.
What
I mean, here's the theory that I think that the social data proves very clearly, and this is the point, that when we disorder sex, when we divorce sex from love, fidelity, commitment, family, like the whole project of marriage, I'm gonna, sex can bring life into the world. If we do bring a life into the world, we're gonna stick together, love each other, build a family together. When you take sex out of that context, out of the context of love and marriage, and you put it in the context of my goal, my orgasm, what I want, right? At whatever cost I can pay, provided someone else consents, right? It's not just, I think, that person that will suffer and the other people engaged directly in that will suffer, but it is children. And so you said, well, yes, okay, there's a proliferation of child sexual assault material, yeah, but that's not saying porn is responsible for that. That is a form of the porn that's being created and consumed at large in our society. So to say that children are somehow unscathed by the proliferation of porn, I think is totally untrue, Destiny.
That's fine,
and
but
in addition,
to say that it... Okay.
And in addition, I'll just say one other thing. The flip side of this, we've debated on this before, Trent has as well. Sexual hedonism at large, in addition, leads to what we have today, which is abortion on demand. You mentioned abortion rates are so low. They're actually very high. There are nearly 1 million a year
they're lower
in this country.
When porn, with the wide availability of porn, it's gone down a lot. So I'm just curious, you guys are saying, oh my gosh, there's all this violent stuff now.
But Jasmine,
I'm looking at the data. There's nothing linking porn to increased violence. Is there actually a lot of studies that link the wide availability of pornography to less violence? I have
there's
3
more
studies
pornography
right here.
today.
We found that in the Czech Republic, in Denmark,
3 or 4
in Japan,
decades ago, it was
China,
find a
and
Playboy
in Hong Kong.
magazine or go to an adult video store.
Today,
porn is everywhere.
So why are we not seeing this proliferation of violence and all these terrible things happening?
We're seeing a lot of,
those are all less
seeing a lot
than
of
they were
social
before.
ills.
When there were just those Playboy magazines, we had way more of that stuff than we do now with pornography widely available.
So is your argument that we had less child sexual assault material?
Child abuse has declined.
So are you saying that child sexual assault material can be created without child abuse?
I'm saying that child abuse cases, all of those have gone down. I'm also saying that
incorrect,
STD
Jasmine.
rates have gone. This is according to
that's incorrect.
So
that's incorrect.
Is this incorrect? Okay. Well, what data do you have that shows
your argument is that the proliferation of porn, somehow that has led to less child sexual abuse. I didn't say it's led to.
I'm not saying causation.
So what's your argument?
My argument here is that if porn became widely available and it's so violent and it's so terrible, then how come we're not seeing those outcomes reflected in real life?
Why is there a proliferation of child sexual assault material on the internet and it increases every year?
Because we have the internet now. We didn't have the internet before, but since we've had the internet, we've had less abortion, less syphilis, less gonorrhea, less teen sex, less teen birth rates have fallen 33% according to the CDC. SA has declined, and then
your argument is that child sexual assault material is not porn, or what is your argument?
My argument, I'm not even talking about child sexual assault material.
What are you?
My argument here is that when porn became widely available, we didn't see an increase in violence. In fact, I have lots of studies here that show that once porn became widely available, like for instance in the Czech Republic.
When did porn become widely available in the United States?
Around the early 2000s. That's what I read.
So I think I can understand the argument you're making, but I don't think it bears out. For example, with divorce rates, as an example, as I said earlier, one of the second highest most quoted thing when it comes to divorce today is the pornography use of one of the partners.
But divorce rates have also gone down since the
but
early
overall
2000s.
They've gone up over the last
not since the
40,
so this
50
is my
years.
question. Since porn has become available, they have not gone up. They've actually gone down since the early 2000s.
One reason they go down is people are choosing not to marry.
That's fine. But what I'm saying, and I don't think they're choosing not. I don't think they're not choosing to get married because porn is available. But you have no link to that. My question is.
But hold on, I think it's a fact. It is a fact that the sexual revolution, which took place in this country mid 20th century, which opened the floodgates of pornography, first with, Playboy magazine, and then later on with the internet, which opened the floodgates to, no-fault divorce, more divorce, swinger culture, open marriages, all of this stuff, abortion, all of this stuff, that those social ills all mushroomed together. And they still exist in large quantities in our society today together. Because when you treat sex just as orgasm or as something that as an adult I'm entitled to as long as I consent and someone else is consenting and sex has no other morality around it, you are opening the door, and we have the doors wide open to divorce, to abortion, to a lot of the unhappiness that we're seeing in relationships
So
today.
you said all the social data, though, agrees with you, but I'm pointing out that abortion rates have fallen 41% since the 90s.
But abortion rates since porn has been entered into the mainstream,
yes, has
gone up over the last 50 years dramatically.
But it became widely available in the late 90s. So the CDC abortion rates have fallen 41%
I don't think the data shows
since the
what you're saying it's showing.
People look it up. This is the CDC that's saying this.
But you don't think that porn is the only reason?
I don't think that. But my question to you is that if it's such a terrible thing, where are these terrible outcomes?
And I'm trying to say that porn, whether it was the Playboy porn or it's the vastly available internet porn.
The terrible
so you think they're the same?
I think that they are part of the same problem, which is divorcing meaning from sex and putting arms around hedonistic culture that breaks down families and breaks down marriages. And I'm saying that in the last 50 years in this country, we have seen unprecedented divorce, unprecedented abortion, we've seen unprecedented STIs. The sexual revolution's harm.
Are we talking about the sexual revolution or porn? Because I'm not talking about 50 years. I'm talking about since porn became widely available. You guys are saying, and all these terrible things, teen mom porn, so violent. Where are the outcomes that show that this is such an harm? Because I'm not seeing that. I have 3 studies here. Actually, there's a lot of evidence that porn has a cathartic effect.
Do you think it's bad, Jasmine, that the average first stage of exposure to pornography is 11 years old?
I don't think that's ideal, but I don't think
no, it's not asked. I said, is it bad?
Yeah, I think it's bad, but I'm not seeing that it's so bad that it's leading to such terrible outcomes, because it's not. Where are these outcomes?
What happens when children are exposed to pornography?
Actually, there's also a lot of conflicting data on that. A lot of the data on this is really frustrating because it's really conflicting. I have studies here that show that it's not.
But really, Jasmine, part of the reason for that is we're living in a social experiment.
Wait, hold on one second. I want to know, is it bad when 11-year-olds, their first exposure to pornography? I'm just saying that's a bad thing.
Yeah, it's a bad thing in the sense that it's not ideal.
Why is it bad? What does it do to them?
It's like they're not old enough. Their prefrontal cortex isn't developed enough to be able to look at that and realize what's real, what's not real, how sex is supposed to go. So I don't think porn is a great way.
How is sex supposed to go?
Probably not like if you're on Pornhub watching like 8 people gangbang someone, they're going to think that is normal.
That's sex. Not normal?
Not
okay, wait, hold on, wait. Okay, I think when we talk about how sex is supposed to go, okay, I think we have to build a constructive case for what are different ways that we can view sex. You guys seem to be really happy to say that like sex ought to be this, or society's destroyed sex, or blah, 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 blah. I think that you can posit a separate argument that sex is actually something that the body is capable of experiencing, that is a lot of fun, and we've evolved beyond the need to view sex as just a tool or a facility to pump out children, and instead can view it as a way to bond with people or have fun or enjoy recreationally. I think that we have the tools today to enjoy that because we've got things to protect or cure STDs. We've got ways to prevent pregnancies. We've got different types of birth controls. I think that it's okay that society has taken on a different view of sex, just like we've taken on a different view of women working jobs, or a different view of what kind of clothes can we wear because we have air conditioning, or a different view of what are the hours that we can be awake, where we can travel. I think it's just natural that different things will evolve over time, that we'll view different things. Yeah, we can view things differently based on our way of engaging with them.
According to the Go Backer Institute, for women that got abortions, 50% of them in the month that they got pregnant were using contraception. So when you kind of say, well, now we have these technologies that can somehow sort of blunt the natural consequences of sex.
I'm sorry, wait, what was that supposed to refute?
So what's that supposed to refute is you're saying that we have all of these powers now.
To change the way we engage with sex, yes.
To change the way we engage with sex.
Was anything I said incorrect?
I think it's fully incorrect.
Okay, do you think that contraception reduces the likelihood? Well, no, let's one stat at a time.
Let me finish.
No, hold on.
I didn't even get to ask my question.
I didn't even barely talk for 2 sentences, and you wanted to cut me off with the thing about abortion. So I'm going to ask you, do you think contraception is effective at dramatically reducing the rates of getting impregnated?
I think that at large, contraception has led to the mindset, a contraceptive mindset.
I'm going to ask the same question again when you finish this.
It depends. That over time, it actually increases, it actually leads to more abortion over time.
Do you think that contraception is effective at preventing pregnancies?
It can in the short term, but over time it leads to more abortion.
Really? Do you have any evidence that somebody that is on? So you're saying you have a study right now that shows that somebody on contraception, on average, has more children over their lifetime than somebody that doesn't use contraception?
No, what I'm saying.
Okay,
is,
so then you don't have any evidence for that. I don't know. I don't. You're giving me a lot of like socially constructed opinions you have no data for based on your presumptions of how you think that sex should operate religiously. But I reject those things. So obviously we know that contraception.
We are not making a case that sex ought ought to be done religiously or ought to be done in this particular way. We are just saying that the view that prostitution and pornography require, which is that sex is just a hedonistic activity.
Why does it require that?
Because it would be wrong if how would you answer the question?
It can have many purposes. I think that when I go to a massage parlor, I'm paying, $80 to get a massage.
Right.
That can just be a person giving me a massage. With a partner, having a partner rubbing your back or your neck, that can feel like a lot more romantic. So, just because I go to the massage parlor doesn't mean I devalue the experience with like a partner. No? Or do you think it does? Earlier, you used the phrase, sex work isn't real because sex for hire doesn't make sense. It's like a friend for hire. What is a therapist? Can't you pay a therapist to review your problems with them, and then they give you feedback?
But here's the thing.
And once you stop paying a sex worker, they stop having sex with you. Yeah.
But the whole point
that's why it's called work. Yeah.
No.
Go ahead.
Because
the point
we
is that
don't
it's more meaningful than that.
Of course, it is more meaningful. I would agree. Just like having a really good, intimate conversation with a friend is more meaningful than having an intimate conversation with a therapist.
We've skipped around so many different places.
Only because I'm following you and your tangents. Go ahead.
I was trying to ask. You made a.
So if sex work is just a skill, it's something that people enjoy.
Yeah.
Do there have to be? Is this something that only specialists can? Well, let's say for example, so Jasmine, a lot of people do OnlyFans. They have other jobs. Like you're a lawyer. People have other jobs. So you can have someone who's a masseuse and does OnlyFans, or a therapist and does OnlyFans, right? Okay. So you're like a sex worker by night, masseuse, therapist during the day. Would it be okay if they offered those sex services as a part of their day job, being a masseuse?
Depends on what the day job is. If it's like a lawyer or something, or if it's like a therapist, probably not, because you're violating like an appropriate relationship to have with somebody. But if it's like your auto mechanic and he also sells you like pictures of his dick, it's probably not as big of a deal.
Let me give you another example. So my wife was a nurse at the hospital, so she worked with neurotelemetry, and people have brain injuries, spine injuries, stuff like that, and also older people and people who would need things like bathing and cleaning. Okay. So they need, to be cleaned, including clean their perineal care. So just like groin, crotch, butt, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And some of them would ask her, and this would also happen to other nurses, hey, while you're down there, could you just play with my wee-wee a little bit, or, masturbate me? Okay. So let's say you have a nurse who is also an OnlyFans, is a sex worker on the side. Should she be allowed to offer that?
My understanding, and I'm not a medical professional, but my understanding is that when you're making decisions related to patient care, if a patient under your care, engaging in friendly or sexual relationships with them can cause an inappropriate crossing of boundaries that compromises your ability to deliver good medical care. So I would say that in the case where somebody's like a therapist or a medical professional that's making decisions relating to your healthcare, it's probably not appropriate.
Because you just related
but
therapy
why?
to friendship.
Lawyers can't even accept.
Hold on, wait. How did my relation of therapy to friendship break anything that I just said?
Because you're saying that you can't enter this new dynamic of sexual relationship in a healthcare setting because that somehow violates the healthcare setting.
What's
Why?
being violated?
That's Trent's question. Why?
What did I just say was being violated?
What is being violated?
I said it like 3 times. I'll repeat it again. It's compromising your ability to deliver care.
But if the care is included,
let me ask you this question: Is
the sex work? You wouldn't include sex work and health work together in care unless you're
So.
We could invent a scenario where that's true. What if you're going to a hospital and part of the care is my husband has issues with erectile dysfunction? Maybe part of the health services is them jerking you off to make sure everything's working. In that case, you would combine it. Would you agree, or would you say it's still inappropriate? Wait, I want to answer for that. Would you, if that case, would that be an appropriate combination
of like? No, I don't think you should go to people to jerk you off. No, that's.
Do you think it would be? Do you think ignoring your personal sexual views? Do you think it would be appropriate?
It's not a personal sexual view. It's the view that's actually been
held
for thousands of years by many millions and billions of people.
So if you're going to a hospital and they're trying to check you for a working sexual function, them seeing if you can get an erection, that would be an inappropriate way for them to examine you.
I think if they are really trying to determine if you can get an erection, there's a way, and you're a married person in a marriage. There's
what
a
if
way
you're not a married person? What if you're single?
Why would they need to determine that?
Because believe it or not, there are people in this world that even when they're not married, they want to ensure that their sexual function is working.
And sex is.
Wait. I really want to answer that. You disagree with that? You don't think your sexual function is relevant if you're not married?
No, I think it's relevant, but I think that I don't think it would be good care to go into a hospital and say...
I really want to answer this. So if you have problems with erectile dysfunction, it would be inappropriate for a healthcare provider to assess the ability of you to get an erection while you're at the hospital. That's inappropriate.
I think it depends. I'm curious what the standard of care is for that right now. I mean, do you know what the standard of care is?
I'm not, but I'm asking you as a hypothetical. But I'm asking if you go to the hospital, you have problems with erectile dysfunction. Doctor, I've got issues. And I say, okay, we're going to give you a medication. We're going to try something. And we'll see if we can get an erection.
I think it would be a strange form of care to say, well, let's try.
I didn't ask if it was stranger not ask you was appropriate.
I don't think it would be appropriate.
No, you don't think it would be appropriate.
I think giving a medication.
So that type of healthcare is totally outlawed.
We would agree.
To be clear, giving a medication would be appropriate.
It's fine to use medical treatment
to stimulate them.
It's fine to use medical treatment to see if your body is working properly. It's fine to do things to acquire semen, for example. You might use, for example, with some patients, use electroejaculation stimulation of the prostate in order to get. Well, for some patients, that's what you have to do, including if they're paralyzed.
Okay, I understand what you just said was a way more hardcore kink than water sports, but okay, go ahead.
No, to see if you can ejaculate, to see if you're able. There is a difference between trying to determine if your body is functioning properly and saying that sex is just a service that can be provided. If we provide people in the hospital, we provide them all kinds of services to make sure they're comfortable, right? Like we give them television. They don't need that to live, right?
Okay.
But it makes them comfortable, correct?
Yeah.
So we give patients stuff in the hospital to make sure that they stay as comfortable. We give them television. We give them different food they can choose. We give them bathing, obviously. And when they're very uncomfortable, we do things to make sure they're comfortable. So if the patient says, sex would make me very comfortable, why wouldn't, if a nurse can clean the guy's testicles and penis and is already handling all of this, why not just you put on the gloves and give him a hand job?
Well, one is because it's illegal. Two, if it were legal, my guess would be the procedure for that would be you would bring in a third party or you contract out to somebody different.
Why do you bring in a third party
I've already
to give the guy?
explained it.
Let me finish. Why do you need to bring in a third party to give the guy a hand job and not a third party to wipe his butt and clean between his peritoneum?
Because when you start engaging in romantic or sexual or
who says it's romantic? It's just getting.
I said or means any of these. Yeah. When you engage in romantic or sexual or friendship type things, that these things are all inappropriate because they compromise your ability to objectively offer care. For instance, would it be inappropriate to say, well, can you please just like jerk me off? You're going to clean my ass? Yes, that would be, because if a patient starts to have a sexual relationship with a practitioner, then if that practitioner has to make a tough call on that patient's health, that might be compromised. The same way that let's say the person starts saying like, man, my kids never.
Why does sex do this stuff?
Let me just finish. Hold on, I got to finish this one thing. Oh my God. Okay. Let's say that the patient comes in or the nurse comes in and the patient starts talking to the nurse like, man, my kids aren't calling me, like I don't know what to do. And then the nurse sits around and they start talking blah, 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 blah. That would be equally inappropriate. That would be incredibly inappropriate. If they started to form a very close friendship with a patient, that would also be inappropriate because again, if a tough call has to be made on the patient, at some point, you might not be able to make that tough call because now your judgment is compromised. This is why surgeons that have like wives or husbands don't operate on them because their judgment is compromised.
But what if you can give hand jobs and you're not attached? It's just sex work.
Well, right now, in terms of how human relationships and everything work, it seems to be the case that...
you're saying something very important, which is that there is an emotional, psychological component to sex.
As a lawyer, we have rules on how we're able to engage with people. We're not allowed to accept gifts, for instance.
I want to make sure I'm understanding Destiny correctly and what he just said.
Hold on, let Lila go, then we'll have you come in. Go.
And I do want to get back to the contraception thing, but you had said that there's an emotional, romantic connection to sex that's, I don't know if you
oftentimes there can be, yes.
Yes. So that sounds like more than work.
It can be.
Yeah. So you're when you guys talk about sex
hold on.
work, like
I'm sorry, real quick. I reject that. What do you mean that sounds like more than work?
When you talk about sex work, like we can sell this commodity of sex, like
it's a service.
Like it's a service. You're saying, well, but more emotions and psychological, romantic feelings get involved. Therefore, it doesn't belong in the professional setting of healthcare. That's what you're saying. So how can you still say it's work and it's a professional?
Do teachers work?
Yes.
Do they have emotional connections to children and parents?
And they should. That's a healthy thing. Okay, so then
that argument doesn't make any sense. So what's the next one?
Well, are you saying that a nurse should not have an emotional connection at all to her patient?
Generally, they try to minimize it, yes.
They should have empathy. That's actually required for nurses to have empathy.
You're telling me they shouldn't have empathy. They should have compassion. They're two different things because empathy can compromise your ability to deliver.
Are you saying a nurse can't understand the personal background, desires, hopes, and develop a friendly rapport with a patient?
You can have like a friendly where there isn't one.
No, it's a crucial distinction. Having a friendly rapport with somebody is different than becoming personally, emotionally invested in the outcome. You have to maintain an appropriate level of distance, whether you're a lawyer, whether you're a medical professional.
And sex crosses that line because of what sex just intrinsically is.
Many things cross that line. Like I just said, when you're a lawyer, you can't accept certain gifts. You can't get too close to your clients. They can't become like best friends to you. to, that's going to cause problems for you down the line. We take entire classes on this, on all the ways we're not supposed to get too close with our clients. And it's not all sexually, it's even just in friendship. So professionalism, the standard for professionalism, I agree, it's not professional to offer sexual services to somebody in a setting where that's not appropriate. But there are other things that aren't appropriate either. It doesn't mean they're all bad and that you can't use them in different
So I think, I mean, the point that you're making though is that sex is personal. It involves it can involve romance, it involves feelings, it involves this connectivity that you sometimes can't help but have. And that's our point.
Well, I have a question.
No, that's not your point.
That is a very important part of our point.
No, that's every single human's point. We all understand that. Everyone here agrees that a therapist...
You understand that, but you also think it's acceptable to have these sexual relationships with potentially thousands of people online
you're not understanding. The whole point of your argument has to do with dual relationships. And you're trying to apply this to singular relationships. We all agree here that a therapist having sex with a patient would be bad, right?
Why?
Because it impacts their
what do you mean why?
Let's say the therapist is a sex therapist.
A sex therapist is obviously not the type of therapist.
No, but that's the thing. Is sex therapists? It's illegal for sex therapists to have sex with their own clients. They can talk to them about sex.
Hold on. I'm not even sure that's true. Hold on. Okay. I can't ask a question because I'm not going to get any engagement.
You may
just make my point.
That's not true, Justin.
I'm not. It is a very simple question. Can a therapist have sex with a patient? And then you're like, well, what about sex therapy?
No.
Well, I think Jasmine considers what she does a form of...
And they can't because it compromises your ability to give good therapy.
But what I am saying is that if sex is just a service that is provided, and it has this...
We don't have to... I understand the next stage of your argument. I'm trying to show why that's ridiculous. I understand it. You're going to say...
Fine, then I will take it out of the dual role to the single role, and I'll give you a hypothetical.
Wait. Let's just explore this for 2 seconds, then we can go to whatever you're going to jump to, okay? A therapist cannot have sex with a patient because it compromises their ability to deliver good therapy.
Well, it depends on their relationship, right?
No, that's not the only reason.
Oh my God.
Go ahead.
It does.
It would also be equally inappropriate for a therapist to form a close friendship with and to go out and have drinks or meals with a patient. But it doesn't mean that drinks and dinner are super inappropriate.
It's not just that, because when a therapist has sex with a patient, Destiny, it's grape. Because the therapist has a power imbalance over the patient and can manipulate their emotions, and there are consent issues involved.
Sure, that's true as well. That's not what we're focused on here.
That's the more important reason.
Okay, we can pick a nurse and a patient as well.
I think it must be said that a lot of people involved in creating pornography and prostitution consider what they do a form of therapy for the client.
That's not at all what we're talking about.
There is a reason that the sexual revolution has coincided with us being more cognizant of things like consent, because the whole point of the sexual revolution and allowing people more freedom in how they want to express their sexuality is that it's a choice, but it's still your choice, right? That's why things like marital rape was outlawed in the 90s. We have the rape shield doctrine. You're not allowed to bring up a victim's past sexual history in a sexual assault case. We have the Me Too movement. So I don't think power imbalances are important because that can get in the way of consent. So consent is super important, but what you choose to do is not. That's what the sexual. It's not an accident that those two things.
And Me Too is a reaction against the excesses of the sexual revolution. So I mean, I think to say that these things are given to us by the sexual revolution is totally.
Well, let me.
It is though.
All right.
Like marital rape. The early feminists. You're saying Me Too is a reaction to what?
Me Too is the reaction to the excesses of the sexual revolution.
I don't think so.
And a lot of the reform that was requested in the way that marriages took place and marital rape protection was early feminists who are not sexual revolutionaries, who themselves wanted family values, and many of them were pro-life.
But no.
So to say that it was the sexual revolutionaries that gave us these things is not correct.
I'm saying that those two things coincided at the same time, because the whole point of the sexual revolution was that, okay, you're not going to be ruined now because you choose to have casual sex, but if someone comes in, because there was a lot of inappropriate harassment, rape, etc., statute of limitations has been increased due to the Me Too movement. All of these things coincided because consent is a huge part of the sexual revolution.
And
I think that...
And Me Too was a response to people seeing women as commodities that they can acquire, and seeing sex as a means of acquiring that commodity. Basically, it's responding to a dehumanizing view of sex. Now, I agree, many people don't have that view, but I do think that the hedonistic view of sex does lead to that. But here's the question I wanted to ask, just to get back to what sex is for and why I think it shows that this view of sex is absurd. All right, suppose you had a friend and they said, because this is parlaying on the idea that sex is just it's a hedonistic activity people can share with consent. Like, say, for example, like martial arts. So martial arts, if I go
Nobody thinks sex is like that.
No, hold on. Let me make the analogy.
Okay,
if I start martial arts with somebody without their consent, I'll go to jail because that's assault, right? If I just go up and punch somebody. But I can ask them, hey, do you want to spar with me a little bit?
Okay.
And then that's okay because we have consent and it's this kind of activity. Now, imagine that would it be healthy to have a friend who says, hey, I'm glad you and I are getting into martial arts together, but I really feel like we can only be friends if you only do martial arts with me. Or we can only be friends if you only do tennis with me. Or I want you to be my only friend. You're the only friend that I have. With those examples, would you say that those are disordered friendships?
Probably, yeah.
All right, so my next question would be, is it disordered for someone to say, I want you to be the only person I have sex with, you're the only person who has sex with me? Do you think that's disordered?
Not necessarily, no.
What's the difference between activities that are pleasurable and consensual, martial arts, chess, tennis, spending time together, and sex then? What is the difference between the two that one is disordered, it's a friendship you should not get in, and the other we would say not even that it's not disordered, but it's the way things ought to be with
It might be
sex.
the love of your life in a marriage.
What's the difference?
The difference is going to be the preference of the people that are partaking in these things. Some people might feel like they like to do martial arts with a lot of people. And for sexual activity, I think people tend to prefer to be more exclusive with that. There's probably other things we could think of that
is
people
that
tend
is
to
that
be...
natural? Or should we think like that's the way they ought to treat sex?
Whether or not it's natural or not is a separate question.
Well, it seems obvious that if someone says, I want you to be my only friend and you can't have other friends, we'd say that's a friendship you probably shouldn't get into, right?
Generally, yeah.
Then why?
But
don't
like,
we,
if we're going to use like the
why
natural...
why don't we say the same thing then about I want you to be the only person I have sex with? In fact, we say that's a good thing.
So if we're talking about sex work, if a subscriber told to me, you're the only person I want you to, I'm the only person I want you to have, I would say no, that's not the context of this.
Yeah, because you're selling a business and you can't have one customer.
Yes, but my point is that just because that's one way to see sex is like an intimate, monogamous thing, there are a lot of people who don't view it that way, who don't want to view it that way. And I'm wondering, back to my original question, where are these outcomes that are so detrimental to society that's happening because some people that want to be polyamorous are not getting in the way of your monogamy.
Think that 20% of couples expressing unhappiness because of porn use in the relationship
20%
is a problem?
of couples? Where is that?
Yeah, this is a study from, and then also the statistic about the amount of people that are pornography use being listed as one of the reasons for divorce. You don't think that that's meaningful?
It could.
And
There are many
matters?
things that are listed as divorce, but I have a bunch of studies here that show that since, like I just told you, porn actually can have a cathartic effect on violence. The STD rates come down. There's a huge study that shows that AIDS or HIV could go down by 30 to 40% if we were to just decriminalize prostitution. So there is evidence going both ways when it comes to porn and sex work, and I don't see anything that's super conclusive that this is just a terrible harm. More than
That's
something
a study
like
from the
alcohol
Wheatley Institute, by the way. About 20% of couples report a degree of conflict in their relationship due to pornography. One in four men report hiding porn from their partner. One in four men.
Awesome. Okay.
Hiding it from their partner.
Probably because they're looking at that prostate electrostim porn, okay?
But I think the larger kind of the meta point here, and you were speaking to this earlier, Destiny, but then we kind of got, the conversation unraveled a bit. But you were saying about how we have all this technology. And so now we can treat sex recreationally. Did I understand you correctly?
I'm saying that it's allowed us to change the way we view sex, yes.
Okay, so my point is that even with the technology, the natural consequences and outcomes still find the way. Even if we can live in unreality for a short time with the technology. I'm just on OnlyFans for a moment. It's not going to hurt my relationship. I'm going to use a condom here so I'm not going to get pregnant, whatever it is, right? Or I'm not going to get this girl pregnant, whatever it is. The consequences catch up. And when I brought up the Guttmacher Institute statistic, the reason it mattered is because half of the women who are getting abortions, according to the research arm of Planned Parenthood, the biggest abortion chain, report using contraception in the month that they got pregnant. So they were using it, they thought they were doing the safe sex thing, and then they get pregnant and they show up for the abortion. So my point here is...
you keep bringing up the stat.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if, for instance, 70% of people that die in car accidents are wearing seatbelts. That doesn't mean wearing a seatbelt is bad. It means that, if you're going to be in a car accident, you're probably in a car, you're probably wearing a seatbelt. If you're getting pregnant and you're having sex, you're probably drawing some form of
getting into the car is promiscuous sex, maybe we should consider not getting into the car so much.
Okay, I'm just saying that number you're giving, when that's saying people were on birth control.
If getting into the car is going and sleeping with a prostitute, if getting into the car is hedonistic sex culture, then maybe
I just want to ask you about your study. You brought up a study. I'm not familiar with this. You said that, what was that number that you quoted? You said
which one?
50% of people said they were using birth control or whatever, and they got okay.
So Guttmacher Institute.
The types of in that study for birth control, did they include natural family planning and pull-out method?
No, this is contraception, birth control pills, and condoms or barrier methods.
Pull-out method and natural family planning are both considered forms of contraception.
I mean, that's like a very small fraction of a percent of people who even use that anyways.
First of all, that's not true.
That is true.
Especially among Christians. Natural family planning is considered one of the only ethical ways to do contraception, which you know.
No, this is largely birth control pills and barrier method condoms or diaphragms or otherwise.
Okay, all right. I'd be curious if that's true, but like even so,
it is true because we know there's a failure rate. There's a failure rate even with sterilization.
There is a failure rate, but like perfect use failure rate is like 1%.
If
real
you're
world
having
use
a
failure
lot
rate
of
could be.
promiscuous,
so why
if
is
you're
there
having
way
regular
less,
promiscuous sex or regular sex even with one partner that you don't want to have a kid with, eventually there's going to be, for many there will be a failure.
For many, hold on. For many there won't be. It's a 1% failure rate. That's the opposite of many.
Let's say is almost 1 million abortions a year enough?
No, and by the way, 1 million abortions a year from 330 million people. I don't know if that's enough.
Well,
hold on.
By the way,
you're so easily.
Can I say one other point?
Many people
Destiny,
experience failure rates. That's not what 1% means. 1% is not many.
One other point, because I know that you think abortion typically is acceptable up to a certain point. There's over 10,000 abortions that happen after the marker where you think it's a human life.
Okay.
So is 10,000 abortions, 10,000 murders, you would consider it murder, of children that are viable in this country a year? Is that worth the promiscuity of adults? 10,000 murders
But you're
of children?
linking that to sex work and promiscuity? I don't.
Yeah, I'm
I don't
connecting
all
of it.
Oh, it's affecting 20. Alcohol is also like, I think 10% of divorces list like alcohol is the issue. Is alcohol bad now?
I think alcoholism is bad.
Alcoholism is bad, but alcohol, it doesn't have to be alcoholism. Do you think that's bad?
In moderation.
So porn, I agree. If you have a compulsive,
and I think sex,
problematic porn use is bad, but is porn bad and is sex bad? That's the question.
I think sex is great. I think porn is bad.
What is the difference, Jasmine? What's the difference between porn use and problematic porn use?
Problematic porn use is where people personally identify, that's the medical term, with it being a problem in their lives, which is a very small, the only representative sample we have puts it at like 4% of men.
Is it possible for someone to use porn in a bad way if they don't personally feel anything bad about it?
What do you mean? Can you give me an example of how using porn in a bad way?
A husband looks at porn, talks to OnlyFans girls, masturbates to them, and his wife hates it, but he doesn't think it's a big deal, and it's really hurting their marriage.
Yeah,
and she
just like if he drinks alcohol too much and she doesn't like it, but he still does it. That's bad. It's bad when people violate the boundaries of their
let me try another one then. Let's say, what if the wife says, "You talking to any woman on the face of the earth hurts me and makes me upset"? Would you say that wife has an inappropriate boundary?
No, because there's a lot of people that are like that, and they
that her husband cannot talk to any woman, even like a female secretary. She's so hyper jealous.
My family is from the Middle East. This is literally how they set up society.
Do you think that's good?
I don't think that's good, but if there are people who that's the way that they're happy, I don't think that's good. I think the way you guys live your life is great. You guys don't think the way I live my life is great. The point is that when we allow people to do what's conducive to their own happiness, that's...
But what I'm asking you is that, can a spouse have boundary expectations that are reasonable and unreasonable?
I think if we're would be listening in on this, that an unreasonable boundary would be a girlfriend says, "My boyfriend can't talk to any other women," that would be unreasonable. And a reasonable one would be, "My boyfriend should not be going around looking at other naked women." That's fine, but still, like, you guys also think like masturbation in general.
What do you mean by you guys?
Well, like, I've watched your video. You said masturbation just in general is wrong. I don't think that our community standard would agree with you. I would agree that maybe I'm farther this way, but you're definitely nowhere near where the reasonable person.
I think I'll bite the bullet. There are definitely boundaries that are like pathological that are not okay, and there are probably some that are okay.
We're not debating whether our sexual ethic is good or bad. We're debating whether your sexual ethic is bad.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm wondering where you're seeing these. If the only thing you have is that 20% of marriages have an issue with this, 20% marriages have issues with substances and etc. Are those things bad? You said alcoholism is bad. I think problematic porn use is also bad. You should go get help from that. Yes, and divorce rates have not gone up since the proliferation of porn.
But the point is that porn is a prominent factor in divorce.
So is substance abuse. So is alcohol.
But you would say substance abuse is bad. So why are you saying porn is good?
I think
no, wait, because substance abuse. Wait. You're saying substance abuse is bad. Therefore, why isn't porn bad?
No, that's not what I said.
Hold on. That is literally what you just said. You said why would substance abuse be bad?
But in the context of why people get divorced, Destiny, is what we were speaking to.
No, but people don't get divorced because of substances. They get divorced because of
behaviors.
Substance abuse.
Well, and
but you're saying they get divorced because of porn. Why not porn abuse?
Yeah. What's my question? Problematic porn. If it's getting in the way of your life, it's bad. But there are most of the people that consume porn, which is the majority of people, it's not getting in the way of their relationship. It's not getting in the way.
Because we can delineate. We can say, oh, when you drink this much alcohol, it makes you sleepy or giggly or fall down drunk or wrecks your liver. Like, we can talk about the different effects at the different levels and what they do, and whether it makes sense for a wife to tolerate or spouse to tolerate or not tolerate. But when it comes to porn, I think it's very fair for a spouse to say, yeah, I'm not going to tolerate my spouse giving orgasm or giving that sexual desire to someone else. My biggest problem with the view you guys are defending is that you lose any principled basis to say things like infidelity or even you can't even define what extreme sexual